Yo, what's up ladies and gentlemen of the jury? It's Zero here, bringing you another top 10. Now you may be thinking to yourself, hey wait, Ace usually handles this kind of stuff. And you will be right, but today's a special day because we're going to be talking about the console that defined my childhood, the Game Boy Advance. Now I've probably spent thousands of hours on it, and still find myself coming back and playing some of my favorite games on the system to this day. So, as the presiding judge of today's trial, I promise to be as partial as possible as we take a look at the top 10 GBA games of all time. Alright, kicking this list off is Yoshi Topsy Turvy, coming in at number 10. Released back in 2005, this game had a rather mixed reception with both critics and public alike due to its gimmicky use of tilt controls and repetitive gameplay. And as a result, it ultimately faded into obscurity, but I say nay. I think this game is actually good, and is ultimately an underrated and ambitious title on the console. The tilt controls, while sometimes iffy, were pretty well done considering this was before the advent of the Wii and motion control in the mainstream. Moreover, it allowed for interesting level designs and platforming centered around rolling, climbing, swinging, sailing, bouncing, and the list goes on. There's actually a good variety of gameplay in the levels, and each world has its own theme. Not to mention, the art style is great too, as it's modeled after pop-up books. If you're a fan of Yoshi's Island and Yoshi's Story, I definitely recommend checking it out. Now, floating its way to number 9 on this list is Kirby and the Amazing Mirror, which also happens to be the second best Kirby game in my humble opinion. Honestly, where do I even start? Gameplay and art-wise, it's your traditional Kirby game bearing close similarities to its predecessor, Kirby Nightmare in Dreamland. But that's where the similarities end because this game is actually akin to a Metroidvania, with its large interconnected maps and so many hidden treasures that give bonuses from palette swaps to soundtracks. Moreover, the game takes a page out of 4 Swords by providing a local multiplayer for up to, you guessed it, 4 people. Of course, nobody I knew actually had a GBA Link cable, so we never got to use the multiplayer. But hey, it's nice to know that you hypothetically could play with other people. And if you get tired of playing the main story, there are always mini-games that you can play to spice things up. My favorite being Kirby's Wave Race, so this game definitely deserves a playthrough if you haven't gotten your hands on a copy already. Number 8 goes to Final Fantasy Tactics Advance. An isometric tactical RPG, Tactics Advance isn't actually a sequel to PS1 Classic. But like its predecessor, Tactics Advance is an amazing combination of story, music, and gameplay. It's all about imagination. So basically some kids found a magic book and literally turned the world into a Final Fantasy game. Sporting 34 different jobs and the ability to mix and match primary and secondary skills, this allows for a pretty robust character customization, not to mention the addition of 5 new races to recruit to your party, each with unique classes of their own. With that being said, I'm not too keen on the law system, and I kind of find it annoying that some things are banned during plays. But I guess it's made up with the ability to use anti-laws to nullify them. And the judges are pretty forgiving too, since characters can't die. Though all bets are off when you're in the JADs, where there's no law and death is permanent if you don't revive your party members in time. So I guess there's a price to pay for freedom. I also wish they didn't remove the ability to change camera angles in this game, but that's just nitpicking at this point. Seriously, you can ignore my criticisms because this game is pretty stellar, and a recommendation to any RPG lover. Oh, and did I mention this game has multiplayer? Because it does. Never tried it, but it's there. Speaking of tactical RPGs with an interesting story and permadeath, number 7 on this list goes to Fire Emblem: The Sacred Stones. In this installment of the series, you get to take control of Erika and Ephraim as you try to uncover the mystery behind a sudden invasion by a once longtime ally. Though it wasn't the first game in the series to introduce a navigable world map, it was a game to popularize it. Likewise, it also allowed for extra skirmishes that were separate from the main story, both of which were seen in later installments like Awakening, and to a lesser extent Birthright. And as always, the series staple of support conversation once again makes a return, which adds a nice touch of characterization to each unit. The game also includes a feature called the Creature Campaign where you can unlock hidden characters. Finally, the running theme of today's top 10 is once again the ability to play multiplayer with other people. As with the last game, if you love RPGs, this is another game to add to your list. Blasting its way to number 6 is Gunstar Superheroes, a sequel to the Sega Genesis hit Gunstar Heroes. Gunstar Superheroes is also perhaps one of the most underrated games on the system. If you're a fan of games like Metal Slug, then you'll definitely love this game, as it's mainly a run-and-gun platform, where the player can switch between 3 different gun types. They each have a unique special, and they can even mix things up with melee attacks. But there's also a bit of variety in it as well, as the game also includes different styles of gameplay, from an on-rail shooter to a top-down shoot 'em up into XC rules. The story itself centers around protagonists, Red, Blue, and Yellow. No, not those Red, Blue, and Yellow. These Red, Blue, and Yellow. As they try to stop the Empire from resurrecting the God of Ruin. What's nice is that the villains in this game are pretty unique, and the game is pretty visually stunning. Not to mention, there's quite a bit of replay value as the story actually changes depending on the difficulty people play on. This is a game I recommend you check out if you're looking for lots of action and explosions. Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga hops its way onto number 5 on this list. Filled with humor and fun, this game is a blast to play, and a breath of fresh air to the typical turn-based RPG. Being able to see your enemies on the screen makes it possible to avoid battles completely, and if you're itching to fight, you can always get a leg up on your foe by hopping them or whacking them with your hammer. The game also features a nifty system that I wished was implemented into more RPGs, allowing you to dodge and deflect your enemy attacks in real time so you don't even have to take damage in battle. Attacks also require precise timing in order to deal max damage, so the player is always invested. Because of this, battling in the game never gets stale like other RPGs where you just mash the A button trying to get through your 1000th random encounter as soon as possible. There's also a lot of interaction between the characters and the overworld, as you switch between Mario and Luigi to solve puzzles and progress the story. But I think one of my favorite aspects of this game is going out to collect different coffee beans to brew different concoctions for Professor Egad to try out. Not to mention the story in this game is actually pretty funny, and a nice change of pace from other more serious RPGs. The game is zany, over the top, and loads of fun, so do yourself a favor and play it. The number 4 spot goes to Castlevania, Aria of Sorrow. Taking place in the not too distant future of 2035, you play as Soma Cruz, who's been suddenly abducted into Dracula's castle during the solar eclipse. The gameplay is pretty much the same as his predecessor Symphony of the Night, but this Metroidvania comes with a twist. You have the ability to acquire the powers of every enemy in the game by collecting their souls. So you're basically a gothic Kirby. With Dracula's castle being as large as it is, there's a ton of different places to explore, and a separate dark world that you visit towards the end of the game. But what if you're not a fan of Soma? What if you miss playing as a Belmont? Well, you can, right after you beat the game with Soma, by entering in Julius as your name for a new save file. Of course, doing so means you can't actually use the souls of your fallen enemies, so the game becomes considerably much harder. But it is a nice challenge that adds to the game's replayability. So for you fellow Gothic lovers, this is a game worth experiencing. Moving on, The Legend of Zelda: The Minish Cap hacks its way to number 3 on the list. Ever wondered why Link wears his signature cap? No? Well, you'll find out anyways in this great handheld installment of the Zelda series. This game, like the other handheld games before it, was actually developed by Capcom, and centers around the evil sorcerer Vati and the creation of the Four Swords. As with any other Zelda game, Minish Cap introduces a unique story mechanic, revolving around Link's ability to shrink to the Elvinish Picori, with the help of his cap Ezlo, who's been cursed by Vati. This allows for some interesting puzzles centered around manipulating the larger world through the world of the Mini, and vice versa. Moreover, the game introduces other mechanics that I wished would make a return in the series, such as the use of kinstones, which can be fused with those of other NPCs in the game to unlock secrets in the overworld, and the ability for Link to grow as a swordsman by learning sword techniques under different sword masters. That's right, this is also the game where Link learned how to do all of his signature moves, from his down thrust to the sword beam to the unique roll slash. And if you're into collecting things, the game also has a figurine shop where you can trade blue seashells for figurines of every character and enemy in the game, and they even come with nice descriptions too. If you're a Zelda fan, be sure to check out this often forgotten gem, and you won't be disappointed you do. Now, number 2 probably comes as no surprise, but it's Metroid Zero Mission. It was actually pretty hard to choose between this game and Fusion, and while I like the atmosphere in Fusion more, this game ultimately came out on top because out of all the Metroid games, this one has the best mechanics and controls. It's actually pretty fast paced, and the controls are tight and much less floaty than previous installments. Moreover, it's especially rewarding for skilled players as sequence breaking is practically built into the game, granting the player the freedom to forego most of the power-ups and do basically whatever they want, in whatever order they want. This is also the first game to properly introduce Zero Suit Samus outside of the Justin Bailey code in the original, by dedicating an entire stealth section towards the end of the game that has you sneaking around through vents as you avoid space pirates in a pretty tense segment. And like in any other Metroid game, your completion time and item collection percentage determines which end screen you'll get. But what's nice this time around is that there's actually a gallery, so you can go back and look at them all again without having to rebeat the game. Finally, the game also includes the original Metroid 2 if you ever wanted to play it, so it's kind of like a 2-for-1 deal. so Metroid Zero Mission is, in my opinion, also the best 2D Metroid game as well. So, we've already covered 9 incredible games, but what could possibly be the best? Well, the number 1 game on this list is...
Hold it! How could you make a top 10 list without including a Pokemon game?
Ace? What are you doing here, and how long have you been there?
The moment you said red, blue, and yellow. But more important is the lack of Pokemon on this list.
Well, I haven't said what my number 1 game is yet, so for all you know, it could be a Pokemon.
Is it?
No, but that's because I never played any of the Pokemon games as a kid.
Objection! I demand that you put a Pokemon game on this list. You can't leave out such an amazing series just because you didn't have it on your childhood.
What? Okay, well, fine. Look, how about I give it an honorable mention? And I'll even let you do the segment.
That's all I ask. So, what should have been the number 1 game, but has unjustly been relegated to the spot of honorable mention, is Pokemon Emerald. Combining aspects of Ruby and Sapphire, Emerald is the definite way to play the 3rd generation of Pokemon. After all, why choose between 2 legendaries when you can have all 3? Not to mention it was the game that introduced the Battle Frontier, where you can go to different stadiums that add unique mechanics to normal battles, giving the game a robust and fun post-game. But if you're tired of all that fighting, Gen 3 was the first to introduce Pokemon contests into the mix, allowing you to show off your Pokemon's style as you compete for ribbons. The ambition doesn't stop there, because the 3rd generation of Pokemon also had you solving pretty complex Braille puzzles as you go on your journey to catch the 3 Reggies. And it even introduces the mechanic of diving underwater to explore even more of the game's beautiful world. And if you're tired of all that, then you can just chill in your secret base where you can design your own little cozy place to live. Seriously, this game is amazing, and Zero is a complete idiot for not including this on his main list.
So, are you happy now?
No, but I'm feeling a little bit better.
What? Fine. Moving on then. The number 1 game on this list is... Mega Man Zero 2. Man, Zero is like the most badass character ever made. And I guess it comes as no surprise that this might be the top game on my list because, well, that's who I named myself after. Hey, I never said it'd be fair, okay? But, biases aside, this game is still amazing. Made during a time when Capcom was still good at their job, it's a fast-paced action platformer with some of the best music in gaming. Now, why the second in the series and not the first or its successors? Well, it was actually a pretty hard choice, but I decided to go with Mega Man Zero 2 because it improved upon the first's mechanic while adding new things to the game that these series staple. For example, Mega Man Zero 2 introduced different forms Zero could use that provide him with different abilities from stat increases to an incredibly sweet Z-Saber spin dash. These forms could be unlocked by fulfilling certain requirements like killing X amount of enemies with your jump slash. Moreover, it rewarded skilled players by giving them EX skills. After each stage, you're given a ranking, and if you start one of the stages with an A or S ranking, then you can acquire that stage's Mavericks abilities similar to how you would in other Mega Man games. Of course, this makes the game pretty challenging to complete, but man does it feel so good when you do. There's even a hidden image gallery that you can unlock, and a multiplayer mode where you and a friend can do small minigames like time trials. Not to mention, it's got a pretty good story for a platform centered around how the pursuit of power can corrupt an individual even if it's done with good intentions. Finally, I have to give this game my top spot because, well, this is the game that truly got me into gaming and kept me gaming. I poured hours into this game and I still haven't completed it because hard mode is, well, frickin' hard. Yet even though I get frustrated by it, I still come back and play it every now and then. So that's my list of top 10 GBA games. I want to thank each and every one of you so much for taking the time out of your lives to watch this. And if you enjoyed this video, it'd be appreciated if you hit that like button. And if you want more of our content, you can subscribe too. Finally, if you have your own favorite GBA games, leave a comment down below. It'd be nice to know if you agreed or disagreed with the games I chose. Once again, I'm Zero, and this video is adjourned.